being here today and taking time from, obviously everybody has a busy schedule, so it's nice that everybody's taking a little bit of time today. Today I hope to share with you some of my learnings, my mistakes, and also pleasant surprises that have helped shape my success. And in doing so, this is not just one of those speeches where you're going to sit back and take it all in. I'm actually going to get you to work as well. So in front of your plate, there should be a piece of paper, and hopefully you've got a pen or pencil that you can access. And throughout, I'm going to ask you to refer back to, we'll write a few things down on your piece of paper. This will just be for your own purposes, so you're not going to have to share this with everybody. But the intent is the goal of either inspiring you to think differently about your success and your unique aspirations, or at the very least reaffirm all that you're already doing and all that you know. So as mentioned, I'm the President and CEO of Second Cup Limited, a company and brand that I trust most of you know. We have 360 cafes across Canada, 9 of which are here in the Halifax area, and almost all of which are franchised. And through these cafes, we serve about 135,000 coffees or lattes every day. We've been in the specialty coffee business for over 35 years. It was started by a gentleman, and Frank O'Day, and we are now a 100% publicly traded company. So as a franchise system, I have a tremendous obligation, and I've got some of my partners out here, to grow the business for the sake of our franchise partners. These are individuals and families who've put their money into the business. I also have an obligation to provide growth and returns for the shareholders. So I've got many constituents who are counting on my leadership for success. Success for my constituents, franchisees, investors, is profitable growth, as we aspire to be the favorite choice of specialty cafe for Canadians. And that should be relatively easy, right? Well, here are the challenges. We compete in a competitive category. I know everybody talks about how competitive their categories are today, but we've got this global giant and leader, we call him the Green Machine, that we're up against. And then all of a sudden a war broke out between the Arches and the other guys, both of whom are now selling lattes and offering free Wi-Fi, territory that used to be unique to specialty cafes. So profitable growth is not going to fall in our lap. And to stand out and move from being likable, which we are, to the absolute favorite means we've got to establish a unique, meaningful, and easily understood brand position. And then we've got to live it and own it. So let's talk about an example in the world of detergent, totally separate. So Tide gets clothes cleaner, white's whiter, we all know that. And to deliver that, they ensure that they have the right formula in the bottle, make the claim, prove it, put that claim on the bottle, advertise the message, knowing that moms, Target, will find that compelling and make it available on the grocery shelf. Now, let's talk about retail or the cafe business. Hang on, this is how we deliver the brand. It's a receptionist who picks up the phone and may or may not have had a good start to her day. It's a kid who's behind the counter who's worried about their math test tomorrow. It's the awning outside that just got painted or was hit by the windstorm. It's the bathroom that smells like roses. It's a smile and genuine attention at the right time, or the wait for Sally to finish her conversation with her colleague. I can go on, but a brand is what people think of it. And in the case of retail, it's a real challenge. We say that Second Cup is the coffee company that cares, and that our quality is second to none. And as a student recently asked me, speaking at a restaurant conference, he came up to me and he said, how do you ensure that everyone on the front line delivers the brand promise? And he asked me this on the side because he was too embarrassed to ask me in front of everybody. And I said, I'm thankful that he didn't ask me in front of everybody. It's a very difficult thing to do in retail. And as some of my leaders know that. But the question is, how do I, as a leader, help structure the organization, focus the work, and inspire and engage the 5,000 plus people who work in our office and work think about, so get out your piece of paper, and I want you to think about your brand or your company or your organization, and or if you're not working in a group that you spend a lot of time with, and think about, if Second Cup is about caring and about quality, what is your organization about? So just write just a couple of words, keywords that describe what you believe is your winning promise of your company or organization or division that you would put on a piece of paper. And that same piece of paper is going to be used again, so leave some room on there. This is the part where I get to have a sip of water while you're working. And if you can't think of what it is, that's also an interesting observation, right? If you're not sure what your organization's about, and remember, a brand is what you think of it, what people think of it, but just, what couple of words would you put down? Okay, so I'm going to go to a totally different place. One of the most influential things that happened in my life was when I was VP of Marketing at Pepsi. Pepsi's a fabulous company, and I was there for 12 years. I was in my mid to late 30s or somewhere around there. I had 2 small children at the time. I was working hard, we were moving things forward, we were gaining market share, I was leading a team, and I was falling apart at home. At Pepsi, I felt I could never let myself appear weaker than my colleagues. If I hadn't had enough sleep, and some of you know this, I had to suck it up. I had a baby, and 1 week later I was at the executive team meeting because I was worried we wouldn't get enough of the budget allocation. And so I had Holly in tow down by my chair to ensure that I looked after and contributed to the budget discussion. And you know what? I was breaking down at night. I was not happy with who I was, particularly at home. And one day, I remember dropping off my eldest daughter, and she was very petite, and she's got blonde hair and blue eyes, obviously cute little adorable thing. And I dropped her off at school one day, and she's this big, it must have been nursery school, and she turned to me to say something. I can't even remember what she said, and I remember saying, "Jamie, I've got a 9 o'clock meeting, I gotta get downtown." And she didn't say anything, she just turned around and she walked down the school hall. And as I saw her go down the hall, she had her backpack on, I saw 2 shoulders go like this. And I said to myself, what am I doing? I love my work. I still love my work, but I didn't like this Stacey. So I hired a coach. And one thing I encourage, I thought, oh, hiring a coach, it must mean that I need help. That means I'm not a good person. But I do encourage you to reach out to friends and coaches and people when you need help. So it was something I'd never done before, I'd never considered, to help me figure out this mess I found myself in. And she asked me about my values, what was important to me. I'd always had very specific goals. I knew I wanted to be a president of a company. Don't ask me why, but you can ask me in Q&A, but that was what I knew. But I never articulated my values. I'd like to think that I lived by certain values, but I never really articulated them. And I did some extensive work with her on my values, and I realized that although Pepsi as a company had been so right for me at one time in my life, the challenger brand, the competitive spirit, the ballsy showmanship of acting like a leader, it didn't quite fit who I was 12 years later. And it was causing my stress. It wasn't the workload, it wasn't the challenges. I loved all that, but it was the fact that I couldn't show weakness and be humble. I couldn't talk about my kids for fear that I'd be taken off the fast track. I had to change, or I was going to become ineffective as a leader. And I was going to become ineffective both at home. I think I was already ineffective at home by that time, and at work. And it became a personal challenge. So I'm going to ask you to take out that piece of paper, and again, don't talk to anybody, but just do this for yourself. Think about what's important to you. So either, write down your values, or think in one-word comments. I mean, this is not something you can do in a moment, although having said that, a lot of what comes to mind first obviously is the most compelling. But it can be anything. It can be personal or business related. But write down 10 things. And if it's something like, I always think of my cottage. It's not really my cottage. It's more about serenity, and it's about, being with my family. So just write down 8 to 10 words that reflect the things that are important to you in terms of feelings or values or people. And you won't have to share this, so be as honest with yourself as possible, unless you want to afterwards, but we'll be asking you to share it. I'm sure a lot of you have things like family and health, and those are often ones that we see on our lists. Not necessarily that you have them there, but they're often there. But really look at that list, and as you're still doing it, if you just circle 3 or 4. If you had to just circle 3 or 4, what would that look like? Circle 3 or 4 of them, and said, okay, these I have to toss out all the other ones. I can only keep 3 or 4. What would that look like? Now, if you think about a rewarding or successful activity or project or job that you've done or currently doing, when you think about that, what is it about it that makes it so rewarding? It's probably that you have the right skills. It's probably that you have the right knowledge. It's probably that the values required for that project or work align with some of the values that you cherish. And so look back at that same piece of paper and look at what you wrote about the organization or project that you're working on today and the values you wrote. Of course, they're not going to be the same. You're not going to have an organization that's about family necessarily, and you're going to be about family. But if you look at them, are they compatible? Do they seem to make sense? Remember, Second Cup is about caring. It's about quality. Those are important things to me as well. So when your values and the values of the brand or the values of the organization align, you can be authentic and genuine as a leader. And authenticity is critical, in my mind, to inspiring people. It's critical to be able to draw upon your intuition and not just your experience and the facts. And it reduces the personal stress. And I believe some people find themselves dealing with the stress that people find themselves in when they're in a situation when their values don't necessarily match with the values of the work that they are doing or the people that they're spending time with. And so when you look back at your own assessment, if you determine that perhaps you're in the wrong place, I hate to say that when some of you are here with your bosses, but or perhaps you're in the wrong role and you're in the right place, or maybe you're just not on the right project. But let me ask you another question. How many people in this room, if you put up your hand, have, for their company or for their business, have actually written a business plan for their work or project or whatever? How many of you have actually written a plan? Had to be forced to write a plan? Okay. Now, how many of you have actually written, with the same amount of rigor, a personal plan? And I will say that is very typical. So here we spend so much of our time building plans for our organization or for our project because it's required. And oftentimes we don't do it for ourselves. I had the opportunity of working with, actually Knightsbridge, as I look over here, a fabulous firm. And I say opportunity, and yes, it was outplacement. It was absolutely an opportunity in my life. And as part of that, I did a 5-year plan. And I really went deep on, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and what are my values? And what do I have to offer? Where do I want to be in my career? And what alternatives would get me there? And the plan was focused more on where I wanted to be from a career perspective. But it was mindful of my whole life and my values. And the interesting thing was after 5 years, I didn't pull that plan out every month, but after 5 years, I'd actually accomplished everything that I'd set out to do. Not in the manner that I would have expected, 5 years previously. Nothing's a direct line, but it actually accomplished what I'd set out to do. And it's interesting, I joined Cara Operations, and Cara is a large restaurant company owning Swiss Chalet Harvey's, Kelsey's, Montana's, Milestones. And I joined there as Senior VP of Strategy and Marketing. And when I'd done this plan, and I knew as part of my plan that I wanted to work for a company in my functional expertise, so in marketing and strategy, that would lead me to ultimately becoming a president. And so when I got the offer for that job, everything was great. The job was great, the salary was okay, but on that offer letter it said, you won't necessarily be on the executive team, which was a 7-person, very tight team. You'll be on probation to be on that team. And I thought, that's important. As part of what I needed to do was to learn about how to run a company. And so I turned down the offer because I knew from my plan that was an important part of what I needed to do. I turned down the offer on the basis of I needed to be on the executive team. Unfortunately, they accepted that. And I had the opportunity to learn about retail, about running a large Canadian company. In fact, we bought companies, we sold companies, we merged cultures, we went from being a public company to being a private company. We did some income trust work, things that I would never have been exposed to as a marketer in other companies. And so it absolutely helped me in getting me to where I am today. And I also found myself in a culture that was very conducive to me. Cara was a family-owned company with strong, humble family values. And relationships were very key, and retail relationships are very key. And it gave me the opportunity to develop relationships with very seasoned executives who, to this day, I draw upon for advice, who are still there for me. I became president of Milestones Chain, which was meeting my goal of becoming a president. And it's interesting, too, there, I had been offered a job as a president a couple years earlier for one of the other divisions. And because I had done the good work on my self-assessment, I knew I wasn't the right person for that job, even though it's like, gosh, I could be president, this is where I wanted to be. But I knew I didn't exactly have the skills that were required for that. And it's interesting, the CEO at the time, we had that open dialogue, and we talked about that. And he said, you're right, this requires this kind of person. Hold tight, there'll be another opportunity come up. And so, again, that plan helped me, guide me in my thinking about that. So I've written a second plan that I'm living right now. And this time I wrote it about who I want to be, not just where I want to be. The focus was on how I can meaningfully impact an organization, not just with my skills and knowledge, but based on who I am and what I value. And I know to be effective, I need to be the same person at work that I am at home. I also need to believe in what I'm doing and where I'm taking the company to have any hope of leading the company through change or focus. So take the time to really understand your values, assess where you are, have a plan, incorporate all of this. Take the time to do that. Look at your life in total, not just the compartmentalized pieces. Someone I knew was a very busy bank executive, and she had a very challenging role, was very, very hectic. She was very good at prioritizing, and as a result, she never got to finishing a renovation that she was doing at home. And she started to get very stressed. And when she did her values and what was important to her, she realized that peace and tranquility were very important to her. And that the chaos of her home was not allowing her to be the best that she could be at work. So there was a moment where she thought she wasn't in the right job, but in fact what it was she just needed to take time out. She actually took a vacation and finished that renovation, got it done, and then was able to go on and be very successful back in her role. So the role and the job were not the problem. Her home was, and she needed to step back and look at her values and her entire life in order to determine this. So going back to your own assessment and how your values perhaps matched up where you are in terms of your career, if you didn't like it, sometimes you can change it. And sometimes it's changing your attitude about it. So maybe you're thinking it's not working, but maybe it's your attitude towards it as well. So it all sounds good, but how does it really work in reality? Well, we said at Second Cup, we are the coffee company that cares, with quality second to none. And how do I bring that to life through the organization and through the franchise community who don't report to me, who I can't mandate and say, hey, you have to care. It's a journey, and I need to remind myself of that every day. But it starts with our product. So we care about the quality of the product and where it comes from. We buy only the top beans from around the world, and many of our relationships are direct with the farms themselves. Our franchise partners will actually go and visit a farm in Costa Rica as part of our training. I've actually been to farms in Colombia and Panama where I stayed and lived with the farmer because we have a very close relationship with these farms. And we worked with these farms to have them all certified as Rainforest Alliance certified, which the reason we did that was because we care about the people and the land, the environmental piece as well. And we wanted to be renowned for third-party certification as an important part in being a leader in the community. We're proud of that leadership. We now have 100% of our espresso beans are Rainforest Alliance certified and 80% of our coffee portfolio as well as 100% of our tea. So to us that's a huge accomplishment and it demonstrates that quality. Our food, if you go into a cafe here in Halifax, our food is all locally sourced. We support local bakeries, we support the local communities, and it's how we ensure freshness and quality to our guests. We have a franchise system, and therefore one of our advantages is we have owner-operated cafes, and our owners get to know our guests, and they know how to look after them. And our best guests will tell you that it is far more than a cup of coffee. It's a moment to themselves, it's a break, it's a moment with a friend. So the cafe experience is a very important experience to most people in their daily lives. And so I need to make sure that my team at home office cares for our franchise partners so they can care for their guests. That's our goal. We invested in new technology. Why? Because that allows our franchise partners to spend more time with their guests and to care, and allows us to give us information so that we can be consultants with our franchise partners. We recently partnered with Free the Children, and a Canadian-born charity, I'm not sure if many of you know about the charity, started by Craig and Mark Kilberger, genuine, caring, passionate individuals who share our values. Free the Children focuses on young people in our markets in Canada to inspire them to take action to better the world. And that impact is global. It's both here in Canada, but it's global. And it's in places like Kenya where we buy our beans and support the community. So for Free the Children, we can be the bricks and mortar for the organization, a place for kids to get together. I'll shamelessly do my promotion. We're selling Rafiki bracelets right now, so the money all goes towards water for individuals for a year. So it's, again, just an example of how we can align the values of the organization with the things that we actually do in the marketplace. And all of this is possible because it's genuinely who I am. I care about my partners. I want them to succeed. I know about their families and their lives, just like they get to know the lives of their guests. I have one partner, in fact, who at one of our conferences came to see me and, to tell me that he had cancer. And I was the third person that he told, not because I'm the most important person in his life, but he needed our help, he needed our support. And that's the kind of culture that we have and that we fostered both with our guests and between ourselves and our partners. And certainly, so I care about these people. So we need to have trust to build this business as the coffee company that cares. In summary, to be truly effective as leaders, you need to know yourself, your skills, your knowledge, and most importantly, your values. I believe it's very helpful to build a plan may look totally different from mine. I believe, and it could be totally different from the person beside you. You know, you need to assess where you are today, and are you as effective as you can be? If you're not, are you in the right place? Are you doing the right things? Are you working with the right people? Do you have the right attitude? Can you change how you see things, like the banker who just needed to get her home in order? Or can you change where you are? My experience with Pepsi, where I knew I had to leave Pepsi in order to be effective. And being an authentic leader means being yourself. You know, I have the opportunity to care for our franchise partners. I'm very focused on quality. I haven't lost any of that competitive spirit, I have to tell you, which is really important, as we talked about how competitive this category has become. But I commend you for making the choice to be here today. I encourage you to figure out what you're striving for in life and start building momentum in that direction. Make a plan, make choices along the way. There's no direct line. And keep checking with yourself to ensure you're just you. You're not somebody else's plan or somebody else's actor in somebody else's play. You know, life is pretty unpredictable, as we all know, and so it's important to stay grounded and be true to who you are, your values, and then let it ride. So thanks for listening, and I think do I pass it over to Simon? No, not to Kate. I think we'll pass it over to the lunch. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.